let's talk about this draft class, and we're week 12.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking before this. We always say it, and it seems, and maybe it doesn't seem like that for some of our listeners, but man, oh man, once you kick off the season, the Bills started on Thursday night in L.A. It seems like a lifetime ago.
It does.
And now we're week 12, and we've learned a bunch about this draft class that we didn't know then. We'd only hoped. You start with some of these guys. Start with Kaiir Elam, first round pick corner, who's had to play some, and now he's probably be back in the field perhaps this week with coming off the ankle injury.
First off, I got to say that at this point in the season, like you're mentioning, week 12, I mean, this is getting to be as long, if not longer, than a lot of these players' college seasons last year. So you could almost say they're kind of entering into that second season, not in the NFL, but having played 11, 12 games, they're getting up there in terms of their experience. Kaiir Elam, I give him an A- to start the season over these first couple months, not because he's been sensational, but because watching him at Florida, he was almost primarily used as a man coverage cornerback. And I think part of the reason why the Bills drafted him, they wanted to have some more variability to what they could do in coverage. They've long been this zone-heavy team. That's all they ran in coverage. With Kaiir Elam, they get a little bit of man. But still, they are one of the zone-heaviest defenses in football. And Kaiir Elam, I think, has acclimated very quickly to a completely different style and a way of playing the cornerback position. His one interception off Kenny Pickett, that was zone coverage. The interception on Patrick Mahomes, a huge one in that Chiefs win, zone coverage. So he has 2 interceptions, 3 pass breakups, been a pretty sure tackler. I think acclimating as quickly as he has from a man-heavy system at Florida to a zone-heavy system, that's why I give him an A- to start the season.
Yeah, I would too, particularly given the fact that, like we said, they've been pressed into service, and they've played well. This is still a top 5 defense in the National Football League. They're getting some turnovers, and key turnovers as well. I mean, the Kaiir Elam pick in Kansas City, I mean, how enormous can you get in that building, right? So I would agree with you there. I mean, he's been very good. He hasn't been a shutdown corner, hasn't knocked it out of the park. But, man, oh, man, what they've asked him to do, he has done very well. And I would say the same as you. I mean, you'd give him an A- for the way he's played. And, having said that, go to Christian Benford. I don't know how you can give that guy anything but an A. He's a 6th-round draft pick who has outperformed Kaiir Elam in getting on the field. He was the starting corner for an NFL team on week 1 and is still a top 5 defense. They didn't expect him to be there, but every opportunity they gave him, he has been rock solid. And I would say this, probably more so than Elam, I think Benford has been solid, not spectacular. Elam has probably been a little bit more of a roller coaster and at times spectacular.
Yeah, and not only being a 6th-round pick, which playing as well as he has as a 6th-rounder, that's already kind of beating the odds. He went to Villanova, an FCS school. He was super productive there, but not a lot of 6th-round picks from Villanova or that football conference not only become good NFL players, but play as well as he has in their rookie seasons. And what I like to sometimes in training camp and in the preseason, a surprising rookie, a late-round pick, maybe even someone from a Villanova-type school will play well before the games count. Christian Benford has maintained that level of play this season. He's played on just under 50% of the snaps. He got the interception against the Vikings that we're seeing right there. 5 pass breakups, and he's played a lot of man coverage. Early in the season, like you mentioned, Steve, he was out there covering number 1 NFL wide receivers after, again, playing at Villanova. A very illustrious career for the Wildcats, but it's a totally different animal going from that level to the NFL. He definitely gets an A. He's my highest graded rookie thus far for the Bills.
He's got 7 games played, 20 tackles, an interception, 5 passes defensed, and let's face it, when those guys are out there, they're going to get picked on.
Yeah,
and he has. So the one interception we're seeing here against the Vikings was the overthrow by Kirk Cousins early on in the snow, where it kind of threw it right into his stomach. They all count. It wasn't like a 50-50 ball against some guy, but he was in the right spot. And he was covering his man, and he made a nice return of it as well. So yeah, I would agree with you. The 2 corners, the 6th rounder and the 1st rounder, in
They've been
Benford
solid.
and Shakir. They've been very solid. And let's face it, it's a good thing because they've had to play a ton, probably as much as any rookies on the roster.
Yeah, and I think with Tre'Davious White coming back, that's obviously a huge boost. But the one silver lining with all the injuries is that a lot of these young players have gotten time to play where, yeah, if the Bills are fully healthy in the playoffs, they're probably going to obviously be playing their stars. But if someone goes down with an ankle and they're not 100% or they can't play in the first playoff game or any type of those situations, the Bills and that player themselves are going to have a lot more confidence being on the field.
Yeah, and so as you go down this list of rookies, the guys, and we all know their names. James Cook's the next one, second-round running back out of Georgia, 63rd overall. 10 games played, 44 carries, 255 yards, plus 1 TD. I think people are kind of frustrated or, frustrated or disappointed in not only his lack of opportunities, but, they haven't seen enough of him to really know what he's about, and it's been hard for him to get on the field, seemingly.
Yeah, and it shows that why Christian Benford's been that impressive to just quickly acclimate to the NFL. A lot of times rookies, even if you're coming from a Georgia and you have NFL bloodlines with your brother in the NFL, like James Cook does, it can take time to catch up to the speed of the game. And those NFL defenders are a lot faster than even those SEC defenders. I have a fun one, though, with James Cook. The last 4 weeks, we've seen him start to become more of a focal point or a feature in this running offense. In those games, he has 4 carries of over 15 yards. And that is third in the NFL, only behind Tony Pollard and Derrick Henry in those explosive runs in that stretch. So the Bills drafted him 4.42 speed to hit those big plays. And now that he's gotten some of the fumble issues out of there, he's playing more confidently. The coaching staff has more faith in him. We're starting to see those explosive plays from James Cook at a rate that's up there with some of the best backs in the league.
Yeah, the only thing that's a downer about that stat is the fact the Bills are 2-2 in those 4 games.
True.
That's a crusher. And you're not going to put that on James Cook.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for generalizations, you're like, But I think a lot of people were surprised that he didn't just get plugged in right away because of his athletic ability. He's faster than Devin Singletary, and he runs routes better than Devin Singletary and catches the ball better. But you just don't see him in the offense as much because of, I guess, the cachet that Devin Singletary has made for himself with his coaching staff.
Yeah, I kind of look at it similarly to the dynamic early in the career for C.J. Spiller and Fred Jackson. That Spiller came out of Clemson, was a first-round pick, super athletic, super fast. And early in his career, when Fred Jackson was kind of the number one back there, or here in Buffalo, Jackson understood blocking schemes better, his vision was better, and it took Spiller some time to understand that he's not just going to be able to win strictly with speed, cutting ability, explosion. It's going to take time to be able to make the right read, to step behind the guard and not the center, and I think that's what happened early on with James Cook. But again, we've seen over the last month that he seems to be getting a little bit more comfortable, and the game has started to slow down for James Cook.
All right, now let's go down a wide receiver, Khalil Shakir, 5th-round draft pick. In 2022, 6 games played, 7 receptions, 118 yards. He also has a touchdown. What do you think about the way he's contributed in his trajectory?
You probably want to see a little more production out of him, especially because I thought coming out of Boise State, he was one of the more pro-ready, high-floor type of prospects. But he's made some big plays. In that game in Baltimore, in the rain on that final drive, he had 2 big receptions that were integral to the Bills ultimately winning that game. Against the Steelers, he had a couple catches. One was a great catch down the seam. I think Khalil Shakir should be a bigger part of this offense. And I think as the Bills have kind of worked through a little bit of a slump offensively, they're looking for that second or third option. I think we'll see more of that as, again, Khalil Shakir kind of gets into this second season of his rookie year.
And this is interesting because I have my own ideas about, why is he, what's keeping him from getting on the field? What do you think? Is it Isaiah McKenzie?
I think they just trust Isaiah McKenzie more. And Isaiah McKenzie does give you more versatility where if he's in the slot, you can motion him, give him those jet sweeps. He's more explosive. He's faster than Khalil Shakir. Khalil Shakir is kind of just a classic slot receiver that he's not going to do a lot of gadgety stuff that Isaiah McKenzie can do. He's not going to threaten the defense with that orbit motion or jet motion. I think there have been times where he's on the field And Josh Allen or Ken Dorsey haven't really just schemed him to be the first or the second read in the progression. I think earlier in the season, when Josh Allen was a little bit more comfortable, didn't face some high caliber pass rushes, he was able to get to the second, the third, and the fourth read. That's why we saw Khalil Shakir have more production early, but that could come down the stretch.
I think it might be that he's more of the Cole Beasley athlete than he is the Isaiah McKenzie athlete, or the obviously the Tyreek Hill kind of athlete player. He's more of a get open smart player than he is a beat you with athleticism player. And it's hard to get on the field like that if you haven't carved out a niche for that already. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think it's going to take some circumstances for him to get on the field for an extended period of time to get some chemistry with Josh Allen. Because let's face it, a player like Khalil Shakir, the quarterback has to know he's going to be in that spot because that's where I know him. He's going to be there. I got to throw this thing for a first down. You got to get the first down for me. That's basically what a guy like Shakir is for.
And I think everyone in Western New York understands that what the Bills want to be doing is hitting their stride in December, in January, be as healthy as possible then. Even if Khalil Shakir with only 7 catches going into Thanksgiving, if he starts to hit his stride down the stretch in these big divisional games, the last couple games of the season, they got the Bengals on Monday night, the Patriots at home to end the season. If he starts to settle into that role where he's mentally on the same page with Josh Allen, that will be huge for this Bills offense. And the other bonus to that is there'll be not a lot of film on Khalil Shakir heading into the playoffs.
That's right, and you don't know exactly what you're going to get, although they'll dissect every play he's had in order to find out.
Yeah.
Last one on our list here, we're going to go with Terrell Bernard, linebacker, undersized linebacker, a little bit in the Matt Milano type frame. Has not seen a lot of actions on special teams, has been up for most of the games. He's been, 5 games played. He had 1 start. He's got 21 tackles. He was a third-round pick out of Baylor. Tell us, what do you think about Bernard and his season so far?
Yeah, he's kind of been that classic undersized linebacker early in his career that he's dealt with those bigger blockers, not as well as you probably want from a starting linebacker. But what I like from the film that I've watched, I only noticed 1 missed tackle on film. Now, there's some times where he's just not gotten to the football. He's gotten blown out of the play. But when he's around the football, he's been a very sure tackler. He's only had to play, like you said, that 1 start and then in some spot duty. But to have someone that is similar athletically to Matt Milano that can learn from Matt Milano, I think we've seen that early on from Terrell Bernard in limited action.
That's right, and I would agree with you. I think they picked him because of his abilities. He's an instinctive player. He's small, rangy, fast, and theoretically they want to be really good in coverage.
Yes.
Well, like everything, all these guys, they want to be more like Matt Milano.
Yeah.
Right? Defensive Player of the Week, if you didn't hear that. So I agree with you. Now, as we move on from that, and I agree with you. The rookies have been, I think, for the most part, we're talking about 5 of these rookies from the first all the way to the 6th round. All of them have contributed to a team the expectations were extremely high.
That's what I was going to say. This is a Super Bowl favorite by Vegas coming into the season.
Yeah.
You weren't expecting.
And the Bills have not played too far below that.
No, they haven't.
If at all, lost 3 games by a total of 8 points, and they're blowing everybody else out of the water by 10 plus, with the exception of the Browns last week. I mean, most of their games are won big. Mm-hmm. They're hard to beat. They've got to be considered the favorites to win the division, even though they're not. Well, they are if they're sitting there now, right there. So I think this draft class really has a chance to be really, really special, not because of the fact that maybe there's a star player in there, or Kaiir Elam or Christian Benford, or one of those guys breaks out as a shutdown corner when nobody thought they would be, or whether James Cook comes in and becomes an Alvin Kamara type of player around the National Football League. Everybody's like afraid of him. Even so, the depth of that, they get 5 contributors out of this draft class, and they really are good players. I think because this is a draft class. I mean, Isaiah Hodgins no longer here. Mm-hmm. There are players down the roster, in years past that aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
These guys are, and they're here for a reason, and they're getting on the field and having some production. I think it's a really good draft class thus far, although, 2/3 of the way through their rookie season.
Yeah, I mean, most teams that have Super Bowl aspirations that are legitimate don't have to play as many rookies, but the Bills have had to because of the injuries. And like we said, most of them have given the Bills net positive contributions entering this Thanksgiving game.